Welcome to the Asian Connection Mortgage Podcast, where we connect Asian Canadians together to talk about anything related to real estate, mortgages, and finances, based out of Vancouver. Our host is John Lee, mortgage broker with Arise Mortgage. Grab a bubble tea and enjoy the episode.
Welcome to another episode of the Asian Connection Mortgage Podcast. I am here today with Ben Chan, financial advisor and insurance advisor. Before we start, perhaps you can share a little bit more about yourself. How did you become a financial and insurance advisor?
Yeah, I kind of fell into this. My dad was an insurance advisor for the past roughly about 3 decades. So I kind of grew up in it all my life. And then unfortunately, when he had his own medical situation, that's where I came out and started assisting him, and eventually found my own path and footing and continued to build my own practice on my own. So that right
Awesome.
now we're doing about 16 years worth. So
Oh,
16,
wow.
going
That's
on
amazing.
17 years. So straight out of high school.
And yeah, exactly. For those who are just listening and not looking at the video, like Ben still looks like he just graduated from university. He's like super young. And
Starting it
you're
a little
telling
bit of
people it's like
salt and
16
pepper.
years.
Just a little bit on the sides, but maybe with some color, I'll look even younger.
Well, before we dive into our topic, we're gonna be talking about critical illness today. That sounds like so heavy. So before we do that, I just kind of want to give you some icebreaker questions just to uh yeah, set a more like casual mood, but also to learn more about yourself. So, first question, I've never really heard you sing before, but it's a really Asian thing. So if you're like really shy about this, so I guess you gotta be like really drunk or something. And
Yeah.
someone goes, Ben, pick a song to sing over karaoke. What song would that be?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I've not been to karaoke for the last 20 plus years. I'm like the worst person to ask this, but I usually, if I'm by myself and I'm doing something, occasionally I have a catchy tune in my head. I'll start to hum it. Um, I watch a lot of anime, so a lot of it's like Japanese songs too. But there's one of them that's just stuck in my head. It's from a anime called Dun Da Dun. So every time it's like Dun Da Da Dun 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 in my head. It's almost like a rodeo song, but it's not.
Nice. Okay, next question. Um, what's the most Asian parent thing yours have ever said to you?
Oh, John, I grew up in Canada for the last 35 years. I'm like the most westernized Asian. Yeah, I don't know. Asian parent, uh, don't waste food because back then a grain of rice used to be the size of an egg, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
like your wealth, right? That's like every Asian parent's like, don't want you to waste food, so they tell you this ridiculous story, and somehow it always works.
Yeah. Um, and then how about desserts? So I know you have a thing for Japanese stuff. So I want to ask you this, like for Asian desserts in general, like if if someone can only try one type of Asian dessert, what would you recommend them to try?
I personally like sago. Sago
Sago?
is can be it's kind of like a tapioca. It can be
Mhm.
used in many things. I think for those who've ever had bubble tea, sago, sometimes some drinks do come with sago. They're like tiny little clear balls, but you can
Yeah.
actually make them into other desserts, like baked, even baked desserts. And it's like it provides a nice sweet little texture, not too sweet. But I always enjoyed sago growing up, especially when it came to like red bean soup or green bean soup. You throw some sago in there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
That's
my
actually my go-to for Asian
really.
desserts. I love ordering Sai Milo, which is the sago with coconut milk.
Ah, yes,
So
yes.
it's kind of like a soup, and yeah, so good. So unhealthy, but so good.
Well, what can you say, right? It's like you only
Yeah.
live once.
And last question is, I know we had lots of chat about Japan, and if there's one thing that everyone has to check out in Japan, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. You definitely have to check out the rotating sushi bars. Like those
Oh
are
yeah.
probably a given. But I would say my one of my more favorite ones are any of the donburis. So like Oyakudon, like essentially
Yeah.
if you get like a good family restaurant place, some of them they have like the fried like katsu, and then of course they add the egg on top, and it's on rice. It's just perfect for any meal, and it's
Mhm.
cheap. Yeah,
Exactly.
making
And
me
are you hungry
making
now?
yeah, you're gonna make me hungry.
We're recording this in the mid afternoon. It's only 3:15 right
I
now.
just ate lunch, and now I already want like ryakudon. So
Amazing. Well, let's dive into our topic for today,
sounds good.
critical illness insurance.
Hmm.
So, what is it? Like, what exactly is it?
I know it sounds
And
pretty
how
scary already.
it is. It's like critical. Yeah, yeah, that's those two words. Like critical and illness on its own is already so scary. And you put it together and it's like, do I really want this? And so how is yeah, what is it and like how is it different from other types of insurance?
Yeah, so essentially, critical illness insurance pretty much covers you if you're diagnosed with a critical illness. Um, for example, that could be either cancer, heart attack, stroke, like a critical illness. There are other illnesses listed as well, but how it differs from other types of insurance. So, unlike, say, disability insurance, where it's a replacement of lost income if you're not able to work, or life insurance, where it's more for like covering end of life expenses. Critical illness, upon diagnosis, it provides you with a lump sum payment, a lump sum benefit of cash, and you can use this money for many different things. You can use it to help with your related recovery related expenses. You can use it to help pay for your mortgage, your treatment. It's entirely up to you, but what it mostly does is it gives you options for when something like that does happen.
Hmm. Got it. So who should consider getting it then?
Everyone,
Everyone.
everyone, while you're healthy. I must say, just like any other insurance, if there is a change of health, it does make it very difficult to apply for. Um, the younger you are, the more affordable it is. Statistically speaking, 1 in 4 men in Canada will be diagnosed with a serious critical illness. Typically, it's either heart attack or cancer before the age of 65, right? So, and then it's like 3 times more likely for you to get sick before you pass away. And fortunately, we've had so much in advancement in technology, medicine. Like we're surviving. Like nowadays, back then, like a critical illness was almost like a death sentence, right? If you had cancer, okay, you've got maybe a year or 2 years left. Now, recovery is a lot higher, treatment's a lot better, and people are surviving.
Hmm. Yeah, that's right. Like I was approached with these type of options as well. And I was surprised how like they'll compare like life and then critical illness and I think disability was
Mhm,
another one. And I remember like life was actually the cheapest option.
mhm,
And which shows that, insurance companies they obviously have a lot of data and I think I'm not sure maybe you can give us more insight is that people like you said like aren't actually passing away but they do have critical illness and the chances of it is high. So from an insurance point of view, it's like, okay, we're gonna offer this, and this is actually happening a lot. So then therefore, then they have to adjust the price accordingly. Is that the case for critical illness?
Yeah, so first of all, when it comes to like figuring out how all the insurance is cost, insurance companies use a profession called actuaries. Actuaries are essentially um, people who calculate risk and the chances of essentially dying, right? And or getting sick or getting ill, and they use that information to help factor in the costs. And because the reason you say life insurance is so much cheaper is because the chances of getting sick have been just going up. I don't know what it is. It could be maybe the food we eat, or perhaps the stress we're dealing with more so, but just the likelihood of having something come up unexpectedly has increased, I would say, tenfold. Like just this year alone, I've done almost a dozen cancer claims
Oh
um,
wow.
for critical illness. And it was just like a lot of them are in the 45, 50 range. Only very few were 65 plus. So
Yeah.
it's happening. And you know, if it's happening sooner, that's where these costs have to be factored.
Yeah, that's actually the next question I wanted to share with you is the stories of people coming to you who have critical illness and they're now claiming the insurance. So what's what can you tell me more the process and how this insurance had actually significantly helped them in this aspect?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll give you a couple stories. I'll give you some that have successfully been claimed, and I'll give you one that has this person did not have critical illness and how it impacted the family. So for those that have successfully been claimed, it's been cancer. The cancer has been like the number one diagnosis. Um, Essentially, what happens is I have a client, they have critical illness, they'll reach out to us, and then we'll help to coach them and fill out the claim. A lot of times, it's always going to be based on the doctor's diagnosis. So, making sure the clients have proper records with their family doctor, from their specialist. But generally, once we have the information, we submit it in. Within 3 weeks, we'll get a claim approved and a check issued. And the check, essentially, they can use that for whatever they want. So many of these clients, they even though they've been diagnosed with a critical illness, they're still able to go to work, right? But now by having these additional funds, they perhaps go for better treatment or take the time to sort of reassess what their life is going to look like now having to deal with this critical illness, or just go and have fun, go enjoy it, go be with the family and do something that they maybe had no opportunity to do in the past. So a lot of those are the situations I'm coming across. Even some uh, partial cancer claims were able to get approved where the client perhaps thought it's not even possible. But regardless, every little bit helps just to help give them that peace of mind. And one situation that comes to mind that's actually very close to home is this gentleman. He did not, unfortunately, have critical illness insurance, just wasn't able to qualify for it medically due to past history of diabetes. And uh, unfortunately, he had a heart attack. And you know, heart attacks treatment is typically a quadruple, like some sort of bypass, either you know double or quadruple bypass, etc. Um, and you're usually out of the hospital within 3 days, but that's not when you're fully recovered. You're just you know now you're able to go home, but that's you know you still have to recover. And if you're ever familiar with like any sort of bypass, essentially what they do is they break your ribs, they cut you open, they do what they need to do, and then they staple you back up. and it typically takes about a year for you to recover without you can't can't drive, you can't lift anything heavy. Um, and then so this situation, it's like if you didn't have critical illness and perhaps you can do some work, or if a situation that has affected your ability to work, where's that income that come from, right?
Mm.
Um, and actually, this story is my dad, and that's actually how I started coming out.
Oh
So
no.
the impact of how it affects the family is, if you need the money and there's no money there, then you have to sort of figure it out, right? You have a spouse that probably has to pick up additional work. You have younger family members who have to chip in, or if you don't have a family member, it's what do you do, right?
Mm.
And unfortunately, I come across many situations just like this where you would think work or some sort of government program will help support you. There really isn't that much support there.
Mm. Can you tell me more about the payout? So is it kind of like a lump sum payout, or is it where like they'll give you a certain amount per month until hopefully you recover? Like what is it that you're actually buying for the insurance?
You're essentially buying a plan that will pay out a lump sum. So it will
Okay.
give you. It's not. Um, it's not like a disability. So, like for instance, with critical illness, you're diagnosed, you're approved. They would cut you a check for how much insurance coverage you paid for. Okay, but the disability insurance, typically there's waiting periods anywhere from 3 months onwards, and it's based on your ability to work. So if you're, say, not able to work at all, or what they consider as total disability, then they would provide a replacement of income, usually around between 60 to 80% of your income on
Mm.
an ongoing monthly basis until such time you're able to go back to work. Now, that could mean, if you're only off work for a year, then you've only got 9 months worth of pay since you've
Mm.
been sick, right? And so it's very conditional when it comes to disability. With critical illness, it's just do you meet the definition? Do we have enough information from your family doctor or specialist? You submit it, it's approved, you get the check. That's it. You don't have any coverage afterwards, but it's not like an ongoing sort of requirement for you to fulfill.
Mm. I know in terms of coverage, it really depends on how much premium you want to pay and then you calculate that with the clients. But generally, on average, what would you say would be the average like coverage that someone would want to buy for a critical illness?
Like you said, it really varies with situation. A lot of the factors that come into play for calculating premiums are age and lifestyle, gender, um, family history, but and then like of course how much you want to apply for. But generally speaking, I always like to have the conversation first of all with clients if they have other savings and such. If they really have no savings or they have no idea how much coverage they should really be looking at, a rule of thumb will start from is like covering a year or 2 years worth of salary. So, if someone makes 100,000, after tax, they probably are taking home like 70,000. So maybe perhaps two times, so 150,000 of critical illness coverage.
Mhm.
But once again, it comes down to the ability to pay. So if that 150,000 is too much, right? Depending on the
Mhm.
type of plan, then we have to look at what's an acceptable amount. Maybe it's 35,000. Maybe it's 50,000. Maybe it's an amount that they're okay if something happens, they can get by with this. But that's where we have the conversation. We try to customize it the best we can.
Got it. And are there any common misconceptions about critical illness that you want to address? Maybe other people might not want to buy it because of these misconceptions.
Yeah, there's a few out there. One of them it's it's only for older people. the conversation, especially when we're dealing with younger clients, is nothing's going to happen to me. I'm superwoman, superman. I'm not going to get sick. But the fact is, there's more and more younger people that are actually getting diagnosed with serious illnesses, and that could
Mm.
be anywhere from some form of rare cancer or something along the lines of that. So it's not like, oh, it's only for older. Uh, People are getting ill when they're younger. Not only that, it's also more affordable when you're younger. So, it's probably a better time to do so when you can. Other misconceptions, oh, our government public healthcare system will take care of yes, there is partial truth of that when it comes to Canada. Our medical service plan does provide really great universal healthcare. However, have you ever tried to get, say, like a referral for an MRI or an X-ray or something like that? You're gonna have to go see a family doctor. First of all, good luck if you don't have one. And then get a referral to get that MRI and probably wait somewhere 6 to 9 months. So, if it's free, but there's a lot of a waiting game. And the thing with the illness, if there's a heart attack, cancer, whatever, in your hospital, as long as you're in a hospital, everything's covered. You don't have to pay for the medication, you don't have to pay for treatment. You get first dibs on any sort of exam that needs to be done. Once you leave the hospital, all that is out of pocket now. So if you don't have any um, private health plan or one through your employer, all those medication, anything else that needs treatment for, you got to pay for that expense yourself. Um,
Mhm.
Now, also to add to that, inside the public health system, there's different types of, say, treatments, or I would say, let's use cancer example, different types of cancer drugs. Let's say cancer drug A, you've got maybe like a 30% success rate, right, for getting
Mm.
treatment. Well, there's cancer drug, maybe H, right? That doesn't cover the public health care, but you're able to pay for that out of pocket. Maybe that's got a 75% success ratio. So it's kind of like, you know, if you don't have the money, you don't have options.
Mm.
And then one of the last misconceptions, critical illnesses are rare. Well, that's not true. Like I said, I did about a dozen claims this past year. Majority women, a lot of breast cancer, but there were a few that we dealt with, like thyroid cancer, right? Like there are these things are happening more so now than they ever have before.
Mm. There's one misconception that I thought of, and I was wondering is that, you know, is critical illness mainly for people who don't have savings? So, like for those who actually have worked really hard and they have a chunk of money that's saved up in their investments, TFSA or whatever, and then you approach them is like, oh, buy critical illness, and they may say like, well, that's a great idea. Yes, there's a chance that I may have cancer, but I'm okay because now I have like money sitting more than like 1 or 2 years worth of whatever income that
Mhm.
you would approach someone buying. What would you say to those type of clients?
Well, I you always like to do a comparison if they, it's great that they've got the savings, right? They're probably saving, investing for a specific reason. And I'm sure with the clients you deal with, a lot of it is about buying a place. Some of the clients I deal with is about retirement. Well, one thing that is often overlooked is yes, there are those savings, but if something happens and you don't have critical illness, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to be dipping into your savings if you need additional
Mm.
money. So anything you're saving for, that down payment, retirement, all that money, that time and effort you put in is gonna basically use for this illness, right? You're going to have to take out how much needed, down payment. What's that going to mean? It's probably going to mean you're going to have to delay your plans to buy a place or look for something much lesser, or even for retirement. One of the concepts I always share with clients is the concept of compound interest, how money earns interest over time, and that interest will also continue to earn interest. Well, we've done some comparisons for clients where if they've had to take out, let's say, $100,000 of their savings, right? Um, but let's say they recover after 1 to 2 years, they're able to start saving the same amount. Just how much the withdrawal has impacted their financial goals, their retirement when they're 65. Like it works out to be like someone's saving 10,000 a year at 6% or 7%. Um, they lose out about five or 600,000 in terms of value if they've had to dip into savings 10 years in and pull out that 100 grand, right? Versus, having to set aside a little bit less towards the savings, but allocating some towards critical illness or insurance cost, they're still going to end up with a significant amount, but they've had their illnesses covered, right? And so there's many ways to do it. And one of the things actually with critical illness, there is a feature you can add on for some plans where if you never get sick, you can actually get 100% of the premiums you paid back. And that's what we call a return premium option.
Mhm. So when it comes to critical illness, I find that a lot of the things that you shared has been more like of a defense play, like a what if, and then you can claim it. But I also have spoken with other people, financial advisors as well, where they're using like insurance for kind of like offense play, where it's like, oh, you buy this, it's it'll help you grow wealth, and you transfer money from here to there, and then it's going to grow, and it'll help with like generational wealth and things like that. But when it comes to like critical illness and then also like disability, do those things come into play, or is this just really just protecting yourself just in case you have a critical illness, then you're covered?
I would say for the average person, majority of the time, disability, critical illness, it's going to be coming into the picture as protection play for
Mhm.
defense, right? Um, for those who have businesses, have significant retained earnings within the corporation that they can't withdraw due to tax and trying to minimize the tax. There are ways that you can use disability insurance in some ways, critical illness more so, as a way to strategically withdraw money out from your corporation in the future. There are a lot of things that have to sort of checkbox you have to make sure that are made, but it can be as another sort of vehicle as a way to, one, first of all, defense, provide you the protection if you are still in your working phase. But two, once you decide to, say, retire, be able to pull out money tax efficient from your corporation.
Hmm. Got it. No, this is good to know. That's actually my final question for critical illness. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners? Anything that I've missed that that you think it's important?
Yeah, I think just when it comes to considering it, getting critical sooner than later, I think some of the factors that you really have to consider are lifestyle factors. If you're healthy, generally it's I don't want to say delay, but depending on financial situation, it may be more suitable to get something temporary because there are temporary options for critical illness. But I think also looking at what's sort of the plan for the future. If you do have significant family medical history, cancer, stroke, uh, diabetes, right? Or maybe you have poor lifestyle factors like smoking or obesity or just things that you might have some concern for. It may be a better idea to look at it getting something sooner than later. Um, just because if their health is sort of a funny thing, you never know when things could change. It could be,
Mm.
fine today, uh, but next week you've got this little like ache in your chest. Like, all of a sudden you found out it's something even more serious. You'd be surprised how many clients, more specifically men, who don't go see their family doctor on a regular basis. Some people, some clients I've come across, it's like I haven't seen their doctor in like 5, 10 years, and I'm like, okay, cool. Are you okay? They're like, yeah, nothing hurts, but there is a lot of underlying things that you just don't see. So generally speaking, the healthier you are, better to get some coverage before it's too late. And if you are concerned that you're never going to get sick, like I said, there are return of premium options available, almost kind of like a forced fee.
And how many years would that be?
Depending on the type of plan, but you could have a plan that's, say paid up in 10, 15, or 20 years, and then you never have to pay a single premium ever, and you get to keep the coverage for life. And then in the future, typically I suggest age 75 plus. If you feel like, you know what, nothing's going to happen to you, you can always elect your return of premium at the time. Essentially, what that does is it does cancel the insurance. There's no more coverage, but you get every single dollar paid back. There are other plans that you continue paying up to age 75 or 65, and same thing. You decide, you know what, nothing's gonna happen to me, or I feel things are good. Stop the coverage then, and then get your money back. And then there's also there is a return premium on death element, insurance element in there. So it's like if you never claim, same thing. Your beneficiaries would be able to collect back on all the premiums.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing this with us.
You're welcome.
And being so informative and you know being Asian, like I don't know if people enjoy talking about insurance. It's like, oh Choi, like I don't want to talk about death. Let's like talk about happier things, right? But I like the way how you presented it and it's not as intimidating, but I can see how it is important to just consider at least
Consider absolutely.
on and learning more about it, especially like if there is a way to actually receive the premiums back, it's kind of like, what's there to lose type of thing, type of idea. So for those who want to learn more about critical illness, they want to contact you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Best way is send us an email. You can send it to info@interhealthfin.com, or reach out to my assistant Cyril at 778-764-5869, and be happy to have a further discussion to see, is this something suitable? Does it make sense? Or if not, at least you have the information, you can continue on with your way. So I'm all about educating about what's available.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thanks so much, John, again for allowing me to do this.
Okay, take care, man. See ya.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider giving us a review and subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Asian Connection Mortgage Podcast.